My presentation, I'll start off by introducing myself. I'm Natalya Dell. I'm one of the disability advisors here at the university. I advise students with disabilities and hearing impairments. My presentation focuses on independence as a deaf student, because one of the key things about being at university is that you're on your own. How many of you have seen the Limping Chicken website? Has some good articles on there recently about disabled students' allowance. Have any of you seen the Deaf Teens programme that aired recently? Well worth watching if you can get hold of a copy. Talked about young deaf people's experience at university, and it had some funny bits in it. Okay, I'm covering a whole load of things today, some of which are boring and some of which are more interesting. But they're focusing on your independence. You don't have your mum and dad doing as much for you anymore. When you're at university, you're likely to be over the age of 18, which means we will deal with you as adults in your own right, which means you have to sign your own paperwork and you are legally responsible for what you sign. Some of you may be living at home, which means you may still have parents around to support you, but a lot of you will be living away from home, so you don't have your mum and dad helping you out as much as you're perhaps used to. And you're usually expected to communicate directly with people rather than having somebody help you out, like your mum speak to somebody on your behalf. You know, you have to phone the gas company and pay your gas bill or whatever. You're also responsible for managing all your own personal academic affairs. That involves things like, you know, getting your assignments in on time. A lot of my students come to me and say, oh, my mum and dad used to remind me. You don't quite have that as often anymore. Another question that's worth asking yourself at this point is, do you have access to disability living allowance and other benefits? As deaf people, you should be entitled to something, and that can be extra money in your hands to spend on things that you might need. If you don't have it, it's well worth looking into now and getting that in place before university. Okay, so I'm going to start with the boring bit, I'm afraid. This is the bit that hearing people don't have. I'm partially deaf myself. I wear 2 hearing aids, and you know, hearing aids are boring, quite frankly. Where are you going to get your hearing aid batteries? Do you know where you get hearing aid batteries from in Birmingham? Or are you going to do what I do and get my mum to post me some? Bit naughty, bit lazy, but there you go. Another question that you need to ask yourself is, what are you going to do if and when your hearing aids or cochlear implant processors break? Are you going to have it set up so you can get them repaired in Birmingham? Or are you going to have them set up and repaired at home? If you need to go home to get your hearing aids repaired and fixed, how long is that going to take you? Are you going to miss a week of class so you can go back to Aberdeen, where you're from, and go to audiology, get it fixed, and then come home again? You won't get a lot of sympathy from lecturers saying, oh, I'm sorry, I have to miss a week because my hearing aid's broken, because they want to know why you can't get it repaired in Birmingham. These are all questions you can ask me questions about, but they're things I want you to think about for yourself. There is a very good audiology department here in Birmingham, Hearing Access something and Resource Centre, I think, and they do both cochlear implants, bone-anchored hearing aids and hearing aids, and my personal experience is that they are very friendly. So now the boring deaf bits are out of the way, we're talking about university accommodation now. My colleague and I in Disability Services can talk with accommodations for you and with you. We can support you in making requests for things that you need because you are deaf. So vibrating fire alerters in your room, so if there was a fire alarm in the night, you get woken up as well. A lot of the time it is just students burning toast at 3 in the morning when they're drunk, but unfortunately deaf people need to be like hearing people and awake and out of the building and evacuated like everyone else. Other questions you might want to ask for housing is, do you want an amplified phone? Do you want a text phone or a minicom? Do you need a doorbell for your flat or your bedroom? You know, all questions that are available. You can also have taster stays over the summer, which means we can arrange for you to try it out in student accommodation, spend a night here, get an idea of what it's like. And I've linked to both the University Housing website and Disabled Go, which provide information that's very specific to our housing. Private accommodation is different. We have in student support no control over private housing. We can't tell landlords what to do, and there are some private halls, and you need to be very careful that you're moving into either university halls or private halls, that you know the difference, because private halls aren't under our remit. You may need to negotiate with the landlord whether you can install things that you need or how you communicate with your landlord, because if you don't use a phone, how are you going to communicate? Local fire service can come out to your house if you live in, say, Selly Oak, which is a nearby student area. They can come out, provide a safety check and a deaf alerter, and they will do flashing, vibrating, whatever you need, and there's their website. Other questions you want to ask yourself is, will you live with family? It's very different if you live with family. How far are you going to commute into university? You know, other questions like that. And if you have housemates, are you expecting them to help you out? That can work. For some people, they really get a lot out of their housemate helping them with phone calls or other things like that. Other people, it can cause friction and conflict. So it's worth being aware of what's going on there. So I'm going to move on from that. We can answer more questions in detail. Questions that you might want to think about in housing, wherever you live, is how do you know someone's outside your room? I can't hear a door knock, or if I can, it sounds like the person clanking around upstairs or the car misfiring outside. I don't know, it's just a noise. You might get your friends to text you when they've arrived so you know that they're there. But in your regular house, ding dong, are you going to hear that? You're going to hear somebody hammering on your door. One of my best friends is completely deaf, and every time we visit him, his doorbell doesn't work. So you're ringing his landline, trying to get his flashing, to get his attention, to say, hello, I'm here. We sat outside his house for half an hour once because we couldn't let him know that we were there. An answer to that might be wireless flashing doorbells. They're not very expensive. They have a range of 30 to 100 metres and they flash, flash, flash. I have one in my office at work. It's great. I just have a sign saying, please use doorbell. People press it, flashes. Oh, someone's there. Come in. It makes life a lot easier. Best thing I've bought in the office. Other things to think of are, how are you going to wake up in the morning? How many of you get woken up by your mum and dad in the morning? Can I have a show of hands? Okay, that's an improvement. My mum's a teacher of the deaf and she works with young teens, and most of them were woken up by their mum or their dad. So I introduced them to ideas of a vibrating alarm clock, flashing alarm clock, or perhaps even a hearing dog for the deaf. That's what we had to use for our British Sign Language course. Other issues can involve fitting into university. How often do you socialise with hearing people? Especially at Birmingham, there are very few sign language users here at Birmingham. A handful, 2 or 3 every year. Chances are, if there's other people who sign here, they're not on your course. So who are your friends going to be? Who are you going to socialise with? Clubs, societies, housing, people on your course? You know, it's questions that you need to ask yourself. Is the deaf community important to you? There is a big difference between coming to a university like Birmingham that doesn't have a large number of sign language users and going to somewhere like Sheffield, Hallam or Wolverhampton that has a very large community of sign language users. You might make your choices. You might choose to come to Birmingham and go to Wolverhampton to socialise. You know, think about it. Make a choice, you know. The union is working here, the guild, as they call it here, on non-drinking socialising. Hopefully things that are easier and quieter. Sometimes deaf people actually have an advantage in the fact that we can sometimes lip read in a not too dark environment. But a lot of student socialising does still revolve around drinking and trying to hear what people are saying, going what, and having people shouting into your ear, which is useless, is very common. That's a bit of a navigation you have to do. You could be innovative. I believe there was somebody called Ben who set up a sign language society at York St John University as a way of socialising with other people who signed in a majoritarily hearing space. There's a link there you can read more about. So, where am I at? Another thing that wouldn't work for deaf people, but we thought we had to put in for a bit of a laugh, was somebody has invented these hearing spheres to make it easier for hearing people to hear in noisy spaces. Doesn't work for us because we need to be able to lip read, we need to be able to see. But hearing people find this funny. So, next, I've got something here. So, does anybody know what this is? Do people still use these? I know I'm in a minority. How are you going to use the phone? I'd love to say we don't need phones. I would love it. It would make me very, very happy. Unfortunately, phones are still necessary. So the sort of things you might need to use a phone for, communicating with friends and family, using SMS, email. How many here can hear a phone? Can I have hands for anybody who can use a phone for voice? No? Okay, that's a bit like me then. And because I don't sound deaf, people don't believe me. What do you mean you can't hear on a phone? Surely you just get one that's loud enough. Trying to explain it doesn't work like that is quite complicated. So how do you manage it? How do you tell your friends at university, no, don't ring me, please don't phone me, text me, send me text messages? I think that's getting easier. People get it these days. The other thing you can do is we have a university app called UAB Student, which you can download now and have a play with. You can do things like book computers and computer rooms, sort out your library fines, all the rest of it. You can do that through the app. You can also use it to organise yourself. Calendars, reminders, when are your assignment deadlines, when are your exams, when do you have to go to classes. There's various apps that are changing rapidly, dictionaries for looking up the meanings of words, and I believe that there is a new sign language application out there which might be useful for communicating with hearing people. So, I've got some scenarios that I want you to think about. The first one I'm going to whip through relatively quickly because I think we've already covered it, which is your hearing aid's broken. You've got important group work to do. How are you going to manage? Do you go to class without your hearing aid and rely on your interpreters and note takers? That might work. Do you go and get it fixed? How long will it take? So on and so forth. If you're not in classes, your note taker isn't allowed to take notes for you. Unless you've got a special dispensation, you need to be in the class for your interpreters and note takers to be allowed in classes. So that's just worth thinking about, and there's the details of the local audiology I was telling you about. The next scenario I would try and get some feedback from you is you're not well. As far as I know, none of the local doctor's surgeries in this area allow online appointment bookings. They're all telephone appointments. So you wake up in the morning and you feel as rotten as this guy looks and you need to see a doctor. How do you make an appointment? Do you have a text phone and you can use text relay? Do you wake your housemate and get your housemate to do it? You know, questions that you need to ask, you need to think about the answers. You know, it's not likely you'll have your parents around to do it for you. How do you book doctor's appointments at the moment? Do your parents do it for you? I don't know. You know, I was thinking of ideas. Does anybody have any ideas? No? Okay, fair enough. I shall skip a slide. Some ideas that came from us were, you know, whether you can use an amplified phone. Make sure that you've got access to a text phone. Are there any apps that you can use your smartphone to use a phone call with? Get someone to do it for you. I am your mother. Get her to phone while you're on Instant Messenger. Done that one before. Ask a friend for help. You'll get away with it for friends occasionally, but if you're doing it every week, that can cause problems. So it's just worth thinking about. And that's nearly the end for me. So if you've got any questions about, you know, things you need to think about for university, do feel free to come and talk to either myself or Sam, my colleague over there, and we're happy to answer any questions. That's me finished.